Hi, and welcome back to Inspired Alchemy with Lizzie. This is episode 59. I took last week off. 59 and 60 were supposed to come out Tuesday and Friday of last week. And if you saw my posts on social media, unfortunately, I couldn't do them. It was beyond my control. And so I'm back this week. But I have so much going on that it's really hard to even feel inspired. I don't I don't know what I'm even supposed to talk about. I have a list of maybe it's that I'm not inspired. I have a list of topics, but nothing feels quite right. And I think that's just going to be the episode today. How to show up imperfectly and messy when nothing feels quite right and when you don't have, I guess, the proper, I don't know how to say it, because it's not that I'm not inspired, but the things that I have to talk about just don't feel right. So I'll leave it there. If you're here and you've been listening, you know that I'm messy and I'm raw and I believe in showing up imperfectly. And my friend Amy taught me that a couple years ago. It's when I stopped waiting for the right time to do things. And I just started showing up messy and imperfect, anyways, because showing up that way, at least you're starting, right? And I also believe that it is a myth that healing or creativity or inspiration, things like that, have to come with high energy. Sometimes it will come with low energy, especially for women when they are in different parts of their cycle. It's just how it is sometimes. Life happens. The world has been crazy, life has been crazy, and you want to show up, but you keep putting it off because it doesn't feel right, or you don't feel inspired. But maybe the best thing to do is show up anyways and allow that mess and imperfection to show through. Because when you do that, you allow space for other people to do the same thing. Alchemy isn't what happens when you feel inspired. Sometimes it is, yes. But alchemy is also what happens when you choose to stay with yourself when you don't feel inspired, when you don't feel put together, and when you feel messy. And I feel like this is relevant collectively. Everybody that I know is going through something, some kind of big up level, huge shifting happening. They know people that are going through the same thing. People are like, what the hell's going on? Like, I don't get it. I'm tired. I'm this, I'm that. And it seems to be kind of a theme across the board. And most people feel like if they feel this way, they're failing or they're doing something wrong. But this is integration space. And I know that I'm integrating because I've had some crazy dreams lately that when I went to go look them up, analyze them, whatever, it talked about how I was integrating these different parts of myself that I've been working on for a long time, and then more so over the past like year and a half. So it makes sense that I'm kind of in this place. So what I'm doing when I'm not feeling technically inspired, and that's not fully true, I'm getting bouts of inspiration, but things feel like they're shifting and changing. So what I have done is the things that I know I'm going to do anyways. So getting the merch back up on my site, looking for different things that I can drop ship because I can't hold inventory, unfortunately. I would love to do that one day because I very much believe in personal brand and all of those things. And I love sending things from me, but at the same time, I don't have a place to hold inventory. So I'm doing what I can and doing research and things like that, learning, reading in this space, and trying to rest at the same time. And it makes sense. We're in fall, winter's coming up, and it's a time of slow down, calming, kind of hibernation, integration. And so it kind of makes sense that it's kind of going along with the seasons. And I did an episode on that as well, about the different seasons and how you feel and moving into fall and winter and things like that. And this episode, like I've said before, is probably going to be all over the place. It's not as it's not as cohesive probably as some of the other things, but I feel like it's something that needs to come through because everybody's feeling it. If I can show up messy, then you can show up messy. If I can show up imperfect, then you can show up imperfect. So sometimes let me preface this by saying I've been doing a lot of shifting in my life, and a lot of it has been kind of scary because it's things I haven't done before, or parts of myself that I have never, that I'm just meeting and that I'm stepping into and trying to embody. And I have to do the work to do that. But at the same time, I also have to rest. So a lot of processing has been happening. And the other day, my brain couldn't take it anymore. And while I preach about rest, not preach, whatever the word is, I talk about rest and how important it is. And so that day, I sat in the dark and I watched Stranger Things with my daughter, and I did nothing, absolutely nothing. And I tried not to feel guilty about it because I knew that if I would have done anything, I was like, okay, well, I could work, I could do this, I could do that, I need to mop my floor, whatever it is that I need to do. But then my body's like, no, you need to just lay in the couch and do nothing. And for me, that's really difficult. I'm learning better how to take those times. In the past, I would say year and a half, as I've done this work, like a lot deeper. I guess it makes sense. The deeper the work I do, the more rest that I'm going to need. And so I just did nothing. And I allowed myself to process some heavy emotions and some heavy things that were going on. And since then, I have gotten a little lighter each day. So I allowed myself that time to process and to rest. And because of that, I've been able to move further and do more things. I hope that this is making sense. So if we want to tie it to actual terms in alchemy, you have the calcination, which is the burning down of what doesn't serve you, and it feels super intense. It can be a lot. It can feel like a lot. And then you have coagulation, which is integration, which feels boring and nobody thinks anything is happening here. And most everybody gets annoyed by it because they feel like they're either being lazy or nothing's moving forward. But that's actually when things are settling in. I'm learning to soften in and listen instead of resisting, which also forcing, which creates resistance. And so I'm going to ask you, where can you soften today instead of resisting or forcing? And for my rebels out there, which is funny because part of when I first started in Inspired Alchemy, I had a tagline that was Rebel Souls, and I think I might bring that back because alchemy is rebellion. And I'm going to say this a little bit early because I feel like it's necessary. That society is broken, you're not, and rest is rebellion. In a world that's constantly telling you to go, 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 do, conform, appease, buy, consume, just rest. Just rest. And we're constantly told that we need motivation to take action, we need clarity to move, and we need inspiration to create. But in in my in my experience, I have to move to create clarity. Clarity doesn't come from inaction, it comes from action. Even if that move is deciding that you need to rest. And I'm going to use working out as the motivation with taking action. A lot of the time when you're working out, you don't want to do it. A lot of people have to bring up that motivation within them to do it. They don't have the motivation first. Some people do. But I know a lot of times if you're struggling with your mental health or you're struggling with something, you have to do the thing to create the motivation, because sometimes it's just not there. And sometimes this gets a little tricky. You don't need inspiration to create. You need to allow flow to happen. And from that flow comes creation. And sometimes flow doesn't happen when you're inspired. It happens in the midst of crazy situations sometimes where you're like, I'm inspired right now, but I'm sitting on the toilet. I don't know why that came to mind. I guess it's because every time I'm in the shower or I'm in the bathroom, whatever, I don't have anything to write on. I'm not inspired in there. It just kind of happens. And then you get what I'm saying, right? The overall theme here is that you don't wait to be ready. You create readiness by showing up. No matter how messy, like today, no matter how imperfect, you just you create readiness by showing up even in the times that you don't want to or you don't feel that you can. Now, I'm not saying like you're sick and whatever and you're like laid out on the couch or on your bed and you're like you feel like you're on death's door, right? I'm not saying to go into work or do the thing, right? That or go out with your friends or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. So, I'm not saying to push yourself when you're sick or when you're hurting or what have you. You'll just know. So, to kind of summarize, alchemy teaches us that motion, action, births clarity. Showing up creates momentum, even in the moments where we're not motivated. And commitment creates inspiration. It could happen the other way around, but not always. And just because you feel like this does not mean that nothing's happening or that you're doing something wrong. Most of the time we think, what am I doing wrong? What am I not seeing? What am I not getting? But that's not the case. We're supposed to be in these places as we rise and are reborn through these new levels or whatever you want to call them. In this stillness, which nervous system work is extremely important the deeper you go into this work. I think that nervous system work is extremely important overall, but the deeper you go into this work, the more it's necessary. If you're not regulated, you cannot heal properly because the body, we can go through all of the things in our head, but the body is still gonna know that there was whatever happened. Trauma, feelings, emotions, whatever it is. And we've got to deal with it on that level as well. We cannot ignore the body. So, underneath that stillness that you're in, your nervous system is assimilating everything you have already burned down and is learning to integrate it. And stillness is not stagnation, it's digestion. And there's a difference between stillness and resistance and deciding you just don't want to do it. Okay? There is a difference. The work that you've done, if you're sitting in the stillness, you'll know the difference. You can feel it. And people have asked me, like, how do you know? And I'll go, you'll just feel it, because it's really hard to explain the different feelings. I'm going to have to figure it out one day. But I've had people come back to me going, oh, I see what you mean now. Like, I get it. I can feel it. So, a couple different ways that you can keep moving, even when you don't feel like it, is lowering the, I don't want to say lowering the standard, but lowering the threshold for what you are doing, but not your intention. So, I had to take off last week, like I said. I didn't want to, I wanted to keep going, but even a friend of mine said, consistency doesn't mean constant. So I had to make sure that I was integrating, I was doing things for myself. I was taking care of my daughter because she was sick. She crashed from a show that she did. She didn't get into a crash. It's just her body crashed and she got sick. It happens to performers. And so this week it's harder to show up as well because of everything that I'm going through. But my intention, I wanted to show up the best that I could. But I also knew that I was going to be messy. And so it was my intention to still show up and try to give what I feel is needed at this time. And I've said this before. It's not always big steps that make the difference. Most of the time, it's all the small steps that lead to the biggest shift or transformation. We don't have to constantly be making big strides. All the little things build up. Another way you can do this is, like, let's say you go for a 35-minute walk every day, but you just don't have it in you. You're not motivated. Go out and take a 5-minute walk. Start with 5 minutes, see how you feel. If after that 5 minutes you're like, I can't, at least you made it 5 minutes. Or maybe you keep going. Maybe you make it to 10. Maybe you make it to 15. Maybe you make it to your 35 or beyond. Because that happens. When you start doing the things, you're like, I don't want to do this, I'm not motivated, but then it ends up even better than you expected or better than you've done before. So try to give yourself grace in these moments. For business, if your brain is overwhelmed, you have so much data in there, you have so many things, answer 2 emails, not the whole inbox. Respond to 1 text. You don't have to respond to everybody. And I guess unless it's time sensitive, I try to be responsible when I tell you guys things. So you know what I mean. And progress isn't intensity, it's direction. And also, I want to remind you that alchemy isn't performance. We're not performing here. We're not monkeys. Alchemy is about presence, intention, showing up for yourself, especially, and continuing to move forward, even if it's at small increments, even if that increment means you are resting, where rest is rebellion. Okay? You're still moving forward. And I'm going to go back to the leaf metaphor. Rolling in the leaves as a kid, you didn't worry about how you looked or what people thought or whether it was productive. You just existed, and that was enough. You existing is enough. Society told you to grow up. Alchemy asks you to remember. And sometimes the most powerful alchemy is choosing not to abandon yourself. And before I do my closing, I'm going to leave you with a little visualization. I want you to breathe. I want you to breathe with me. And I want you to imagine yourself walking through an autumn forest. The leaves are changing color. And there's a stillness. And you know winter is coming. There's no hurry. There's no pressure. There's no goal of what you have to do or where you have to be. You just are. A single leaf falls into your hand. And you look at it. And you admire its beauty. Feel how simple it is to just exist. And with that, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for being through my mess. Being here through my mess, through my imperfection, through what seems like chaos, as I try to show up for you anyway, and for myself, despite what it sounds like, what it feels like, what it looks like, because this feels right. Nothing else felt right, but this feels right. And I want to remind you, like I did previously, that you are not broken. Society wants you to think that you are, but you're not. You are unbecoming. You are taking off the masks, and you are becoming everything that you are meant to be. When society tells us that we are divided, that we are disconnected, remember, we are not divided and we are not disconnected. Stay present. Keep creating alchemy. This is inspired perpetual alchemy. Thank you for being here. I don't take your time lightly. It is a precious resource that we cannot get back. And until next time, keep creating alchemy and rest if you need to.